ladies, how y'all doing? It is your girl, your diva in knowledge, Lady Mocha. Represent Mocha's Cafe de Paris, where I'm always serving you wisdom, knowledge, and spiritual awareness. Definitely want to say I am very appreciative of you ladies being very patient. I know I'm way overdue. I owe you some recipes, so I don't want to drag it out. I definitely want to get into tonight's recipe because this upload has been promised to y'all and it's taken me so long to get to it. So I'll save all the apologies and the explanation for another time. But nevertheless, I'm glad you ladies tuned in. And I appreciate y'all supporting me, subscribing to me. So again, I really want to thank each and every one of you. Moving right along, because I definitely wanted to get into this. I felt it was very imperative that I did a topic on this because I'm starting to notice, especially women in the industry, especially since the Wendy Williams situation with Kevin Hunter, where he ended up being denied of continuance of alimony from Wendy, and the way he has acted out, you know, due to no longer being able to receive any more payments. And he's been acting like a huge man-child, throwing tantrums, putting on the performance of Days of Our Lives. Notice I didn't say lives. Days of Our Lives, Lies, soap opera, about how he's not able to pay for his medication, for his foreclosure, and all of this other stuff, because reality has sunk in once he went to that courthouse and that judge told him that it was a done deal. It would not be reconsidered because it is not considered as an emergent situation in which the alimony should continue to be paid. Once Wendy fell sick, that got her right out of that mess. And it's sad, but sometimes it takes bad things to happen in order for something good. And it took this woman damn near declining in her health, slowly but surely losing her mind, you know, not being at her best mentally, physically, and emotionally for things to be overturned. So sometimes what is considered a curse can end up a blessing, especially when it delivers you out of such a chaotic situation. So for Wendy's sake, it took that to happen. That was the only way that alimony was going to be voided. It took something to happen to her to where she had to leave that show, because if Wendy, nothing had happened, she never fell sick, Kevin would have been living lovely off of every show Wendy Williams was doing. Him and his baby mama and his baby mama's child, they would have been living lovely, living a luxurious life off of Wendy's pain, off of Wendy's shame. And my thing is this, I don't empathize with women who have no compassion for dragging another woman through misery, hell, and embarrassment, especially the side chicks like Sharina Hudson, like Ariane Slow Slaw Curry. We've seen her be very proud and honorary, and this is just the level a lot of these new side chicks are on today. They are very honorary, they are very bold, and they feel very, very entitled. And the funny part is they feel more entitled than the wives who husbands they slept with. They acting as if they're the wives and they're the ones that are entitled and are privileged to having the luxury life of the successful wife. And that's why I felt it was imperative that I talked about the house husband who becomes financially codependent on his wife. So times have changed, and you know, ever since women rights have came into manifestation, has came into play, you know, and women now have the same rights as men. We can work like they work. We're not limited to being qualified for certain jobs, qualified for certain positions simply because we are women. During 50s and the 60s, the world was in, I'll say, yeah, during the 50s through early 80s, the world was very sexist. It was always known as a man's world. So men were always providers. They was the ones who took pride in providing. And even more so, they did not want their woman to be the providers. Back then, it was shameful to a man. It was degrading to a man for his woman, his wife, to support him and take care of him, and he be home and keep the kids while she's out working. Men were cut from a different cloth back then. Great great granddaddy Earl did not have Grandma Brenda out here, working in the factories, working, these long hours, in the city, coming home all time of night. No, he wanted his wife role to be to take care of the house and to take care of the children. He goes out and he does all the grinding, he does all the hustling. And that's how it was back then. However, since women's rights, have taken place, you have a lot of these low value men, not real men, so I'm not talking about all men, I'm talking about low value men who have been capitalizing off of the independence of women. And now what is starting to happen is you have a lot of these men that are falling back, and they're allowing the woman to pretty much handle everything. Now, it's one thing if there is an equal share of responsibility. You do have some women who don't mind working, and it works for them. They rather their men be home and take care of the kids. I'm not one of them women, but you have some women that are comfortable with that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But my issue is, if a man is going to take the role as the house husband, that does not give him the privilege to abuse his leadership as a man, and because he is given the role to be the assistant, more of the provider to the wife, that he can fall back on being a man by not getting a real job, paying the bills, not being ambitious, and not doing anything to better himself so he can actually contribute to the household. So you have some men, not all men, that have actually lost their masculinity and pride and have learned to use their ego and their penis as what they're defined to be manhood, when in actuality is just the hood in a man. Low common denominator males have gotten away from masculinity, especially if it requires them having to be more responsible, and in the fact they've become very complacent with allowing the woman to lead. So you have these low common denominator dudes who actually are not embarrassed. They don't feel shame that their wives are the ones that are leading everything, that their wives are the ones that are going out there hustling, making it happen. The wives are, initiating the businesses, building the businesses. And the wives are the ones that are getting licensed. They're the ones that are getting degrees. The wives out there are also not only developing the businesses, the wives are the ones that are getting the loans, co-signing on the loans. It's a lot of men who are successful, not at their own right. It took their wives, women who loved them, that they preyed on, manipulated because they know they have the privilege of being the husband, and they have fallen back and have allowed their wives to put their names on a dotted line for them. And this is just so they could avoid responsibilities. Not only that, you have a lot of men who don't even take care of the kids that they have had from their wives. Their wives got to cook for the kids, wives got to clean for the kids, wives got to pick the kids up, drop them off to school, help them with their homework. All of this while he is living up under the same roof, knowing and observing that his wife is overwhelmed, trying to multitask and make it happen, and he just goes off the merit of being the husband. Well, I'm the husband, so I don't have to extend myself. I don't have to step in when I see she's overwhelmed and stressed out. She's a woman. She can handle it. Have a lot of men who will not go to college, who will not get their license or any of that because their wife got the degrees. Their wife got the license. Instead of that motivating them, that way they can build together as a team. No, he sits on the passenger side and he lets her do all the driving. And a lot of this just comes from the fact that you just have a lot of men that are lazy, and it is the women. We have created these monsters. You have a lot of women that are going out there hustling, bustling, making it happen. They know their house husbands ain't doing jack shit, but because of their image and because they love their husbands and they want to keep the family together, they're the ones that's going out here making it happen, and they're making it seem as if they are a team with their husband, when really the husband ain't doing nothing. He's let her do it all. And of course, no woman wants her husband to look bad. No woman wants her husband to look like a bum, like a loser. So of course, it's all, you have a lot of these independent women like Melanie did, that basically made Martell look good for years. She made it seem as if, at least that's what I gathered from it till I found out the truth, that her and Martell was a team and they had a business ventures together. That was the initial persona that they had put up, you know, when they first started out on the show. We seen them as this loving family, this caring family. Martell seemed like the type of husband that was very active with his children. It seems like he was very hands-on. Seems like he was really developing a business and a plan with Mel. You know, we've seen Mel go to conventions and conferences, and Martell would be right there supporting her as if he was really a stand-up dude. He was really a smart, business-headed man. And we found out when all the grits hit the fan that Martell was none of what he presented himself to be, and none of what Mel tried to cover him to be. And it doesn't make her a bad woman. That's what wives do. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. You don't want it to look like your husband don't have his shit together. And it's areas in which you may not be that sharp. And that is when he steps in and intervenes, because he doesn't want it to look like you ain't got it together. So as a husband and a wife, we do owe each other the duty of, you know, of complimenting one another. It shouldn't be about competition. Wherever I have strengths, that's where my husband has weaknesses. Wherever I have weaknesses, that's where he has strengths, and vice versa. We compliment each other. When I go places, I'm the fast talker, this and that. You know, sometimes I talk faster than I think. And my husband, he talks slower than me because he actually he thinks as he says things. You know what I mean? So we compliment each other in that. Sometimes when I'm saying too much or putting too much out there, he has a way of signaling it to me like, no, that's too much info. Or if I see him dragging out trying to get something across, and I know we don't borrow time because my husband moves slow at a lot of things, and he's just very slow paced it because he thinks on everything before he does it. And it's times I have to make him pick up the pace, like, we ain't got time to think, we got to do this. So that is what marriage is all about. However, you have a lot of these house husbands, these men today, that are capitalizing off of the independence of their wives, the ambitiousness of their wives, and instead of them utilizing that to make them better, to make them more successful, like, okay, my wife is a team player, my wife is smart, she knows how to start businesses, she knows how to orchestrate businesses, let me go and get my real estate license, let me you know, get some degrees. That way we both can win. I mean, it's great, we're winning with her doing everything, but let me also do my part so we both can win and have even more than what we have. Instead, you have men like Martell that will actually fall back once they see their wives are smart and successful and know that they're independent. It just makes them more lazy. Shit, I ain't got to get no degree. I don't have to get no license. I don't have to start no business. My wife is doing that. You have a lot of wives that have played the role to make themselves look good and to make their husbands look good. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of women have put put their lives on the line, put their credit on the line, their credibility, put their real credit on the line, signing loans, you know, pulling out all type of investments, taking a risk, taking money out of their account just so they to appease their husbands who have more dreams than Martin Luther King Jr. This is what I want to do. I think we should do this. I think I should do that. A lot of women have lost money, lost time, you know, trying to support husbands who pretended to act like they had their best interest when it was really all about him. And in a marriage, you should be able to do that. You should be able to confide in your husband, give him money, get loans for him, help him build a business, and not have to worry about you're going to get cheated out of it, not to worry about he going to take this money when he starts getting well and spending it on the side, bitch, he gambling or he getting into drugs. You should have that luxury of being able to support your husband and not get burned in the process. But many women have, and it's because the men of this generation are cut from a different cloth. Just like the women of today are cut from a different cloth. You got a lot of women today who don't cook, don't clean, don't take care of their husbands. That stuff was not allowed in the 60s or the 70s, okay? You have men today who do not like to pay bills, who do not like to be responsible, don't want to keep their own kids, but yet want the luxury to be able to get some boonie on the side of not even doing none of what they're supposed to do as a man. And this is just the way the new generation is. These men and these women today, they don't play their role. They don't know how to stay in their lane. Women today won't let a man be a man. She's always trying to cover for him. She's always buying his shoes, buying his suits, spending money on him to make him look good. And she's suffering in the process because that's all he's doing is looking good. He's not trying to contribute. He ain't trying to get a real job. If he does get a job, he never stays on the same job long. No different than you have some of these men out here that are very miserable, who got trophy wives who like a trophy, but she can't do shit for him. She can't cook. She can't clean. He can't bring her to a business conference because she has the education of a third grader. She wouldn't know what to say in a room full of itchy-law and business-minded individuals. He can't take her certain places. All she knows how to do is look good and be a Barbie doll. So you have a lot of men and women today that are in miserable marriages because they're married to someone who lacks ambition, who lacks determination, and they just want to sit on the passenger side and chill while you on the driver's side doing all the driving, all the steering. You're the one doing everything. When that car breaks down, you're the one that's getting out, changing the tire while they sitting on the passenger side. When that car is running hot and smoke is coming from under the hood, you the one that got to get out the car and lift the hood up and see why the car's running hot, if the fuel pump or the water pump is out, and they just sitting there on the passenger side. They not even stepping outside the car to pass you a wrench. You know what I'm saying? They're not, basically they just leave everything on you. But in this case, we're basically talking about house husbands, men who have become financially codependent on their wives. So anyway, you have a lot of women in the industry that are paying the ultimate price, introducing their house husbands to the luxury life. Just to name a few, Mary J. Blige and former house husband manager 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼. We saw how nasty things went through the duration of their divorce. We know Mary J. Blige was always a successful woman. When she married 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼, she even said that 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪 came into her life as a knight in shining armor, because even though Mary J. Blige was a successful woman from what we can see, she had a lot of demons she was fighting behind closed doors. Kendu knew that, and he capitalized on that. And what he did was he came into her life as a knight in shining armor, and he did help her get in rehab. He did help her get treatment. But with all of that, it gave him the advantage of taking advantage of Mary's money. And it put her in a position before she started realizing, 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼 was really taking advantage, of her finances and whatnot. Because he played the role of the knight in shining armor, she trusted him enough to allow her to manage her career. Again, as a married woman, as a married man, that's supposed to be the privilege of marriage, where you can trust your significant other to do right with your career, do right with your dreams, do right with your money. That's what it's supposed to be about. 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼 knew Mary was a successful woman, but he knew things that a lot of her fans did not know. He knew she was struggling with demons, and he capitalized off of that. And what he did was he became a manager of her career, which put him all in how much money she was getting, how much income she was receiving from tours, from concerts and shows and things of that nature. And when things got nasty, when she found out he was dealing with another up and coming female artist that Mary J. Blige, I think her name was 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼. 𝓜𝓜𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼 was kind of like a mentor for the young lady. And what happened was the young lady and 𝓜𝓸 started having a fling behind Mary J's back. So of course, when Mary J. Blige found out about that, she said, "Oh hell no, it's a wrap." And 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼, like a lot of these men in the industry, was taking Mary J. Blige's money, and this is why he was married to her, and he was breaking 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼, the chick that Mary J. Blige was supposed to be mentoring and taking up under her wings. That's why I don't trust these hoes. I don't do no Portia Williams. I don't let them come in my house. I don't trust. You can't let no female near your husband too close to you or your husband. Okay? So instead of her doing right by Mary J. Blige, which was a successful woman that's helping her to build her career, she was smashing 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼. When Mary J. Blige found out about it, she filed for divorce, and it was bad enough that 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼 was already in the wrong for dealing with a female she was mentoring. This dude had the audacity to fight Mary J. Blige in court for her money. Mary J. Blige was court ordered to pay 𝓜𝓸 $30,000 a month. And this was after 12 years of marriage. You never really see the demon, honey, until it comes to the money. That's when you start seeing people for who they truly are. So I'm sure she never imagined out of 12 years that this would be the same man that will have the audacity to fight her for spousal support, which he was awarded $30,000 a month. And that was the reason why Mary J. Blige had to go on tours. She had to do all type of shows and everything to be able to financially break him off all of the money that he was asking for. Supposedly, he claimed he had experienced physical manifestations of stress and emotional distress from the matter, which has caused him to become hospitalized. He also claimed he was unemployable and could not pay rent without Blige's financial support. See, this been going on way before, Wendy Williams went through this with Kevin Hunter. This is what a lot of these dudes be doing. But because of women's rights, women have been able to get money, alimony, for years, and no one has nothing to say about it. So it's just an eye-opener, just letting you know, ladies, just keep in mind, if you are the breadwinner and you make the majority of the money, just be prepared that you may be the one having to pay alimony. It does not always occur, but in some instances it does, and you have to really be prepared for that. So you had Mary J. Blige, who went through that. I don't think she pays him. I don't think she's been paying him any more alimony or whatever, but I think that has been finalized and done with. But just the fact that she had to give this man alimony even after she found out about his affair. Talking about a double-edged sword. No different than Britney Spears and Kevin Federline. that was one of the most ugliest divorces because what ended up happening was when Britney Spears went through her mental meltdown, um, Kevin Federline capitalized off of that. That is what a lot of these men do. They wait till you get at a really vulnerable space in your life, or either you're at a successful stage in your life. Like Wendy Williams was at a vulnerable stage with her health. So Kevin Hunter was trying to capitalize off of that. Kendu Isaacs knew that Mary J. Blige was still struggling with drug addiction, still struggling with emotional and mental well-being. He capitalized off of that. Kevin Federline capitalized off of Britney Spears' meltdown by basically running to the courts and telling judges, hey, I don't think my kids are safe. She's spiraling out of control because if y'all remember Britney Spears, because I've always been a fan of her, still is, she shaved her head. Remember, she took her umbrella and hit the windshield with it. She spiraled out of control because Kevin was way more, K-Fed was way more than she could ever bargain for. She really found out how much of a demon she had invested her life into. But keep in mind, Britney Spears took Kevin Federline from Cher. Okay, if y'all remember Cher played on the show Moesha as Brandy's friend Niecy. Okay, so Cher had to go through the pain and the shame and embarrassment of Britney Spears, rubbing it in her face on magazines, on interviews, how much she was in love with Kevin Federline. When she got pregnant with Kevin Federline, she did the Arion. She was gloating and happy about it, all over every front cover magazine, because again, Britney Spears was a star. So it's not like when your old man leaves you for your neighbor across the street, something like that. You don't have to see it every day, but because it's a celebrity, it's even worse because you got people calling you about it. It's in magazines, it's in blogs, it's everywhere. So Cher had the deal with a lot of embarrassment and the fact that Kevin Federline just up and left her to be with Britney Spears. And Britney Spears knew how big she was, how big of an icon she was. She knew how big of a star she was. So she had no empathy or sympathy for taking Kate Federline away from Cher. Not that a woman can take your man, but still, you know what I mean? So Cher dealt with that pain, and Cher never badmouthed Kevin or Britney. She held it down, even though she was embarrassed, even though the kids she had from Kevin Federline, keep in mind she was pregnant with his child at the time. Kevin Federline was so happy to be noticed that Britney Spears, a multi-millionaire celebrity pop star, wanted him. He did not care how he hurt Cher. But I tell you one thing, it came back on them in the worst way. Kevin Federline became Britney Spears' worst nightmare. And again, when she had that meltdown, he capitalized off of that. And that is when he went and pursued full custody for their sons. And he has had them ever since then. Now, we're in 2023. Kevin Federline may have a year or two left. So his child support sources are about to exhaust. Keep in mind, Kevin Federline not only had got custody of both of their boys, he has remarried, added a whole nother family on more children who also was living off of Britney Spears' money. So Kevin not only was living fat, but he got fat. If y'all pull up any recent pictures of him, Kevin Federline has put on so much weight, living fat off of Britney Spears' money, eating steaks and lobsters and all of that, never having to work, and hopefully he has a plan because his days are almost numbered as well. He don't have a lot of time because Britney Spears' boys, I think they're 15, 16. And even she said it in an interview because Kevin Federline turned her boys away from her to where they did interviews bad-mouthing her. I mean, he really, really has Britney Spears' sons under the palm of her hands. Now I noticed the baby mama who he did do dirty, Char, he never went after Char like that. For one, Char don't have the money Britney Spears has, and for two, Britney was the one who did the collateral damage, so that's part of her karma. You didn't feel bad about another woman's pain. You didn't feel bad about destroying another woman's nest. Then guess what? Now you got to reap that. So the shoe is on your foot now. Now you get to see what it's like to be embarrassed and be ashamed of whatnot. Same thing with 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼. When his affair got exposed with 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼 or whatever her name was, and Mary J. Blige decided to divorce him, 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼, she finally left because 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼 was not getting those checks anymore. Not only that, she got with a whole nother man and had children and started her own family with a whole nother man. So 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼 lost his marriage from Mary J. Blige, millionaire, successful, somebody who he could have grown old with and never had to worry about anything for the rest of his life. He lost that behind a woman he ended up not even being with. If y'all see the pattern here of all of the people, Mary J. Blige and Britney Spears, this is what happens. You know, side chicks think they're going to win, and karma comes back to pay its visits every time. Then we have Melody Cherie and Martell Holt, which we know from Love and Marriage in Huntsville. And took years. We didn't know that from watching the first season. Melody wanted so much for her family. She wanted the best for her kids. She wanted the best for herself. She wanted to live that American dream like most women do. And in the initial beginning, the first season of Love and Marriage in Huntsville, that was the prize, that was the way the package was presented to us. Martell seemed like the stand-up guy, seemed like a loving father, seemed like a business-minded man. We've seen episodes and throughout the first season in which Mel was going to conferences, going to meetings. Martell was right there, acting like the supportive teammate of a husband. He had the children with him, although the children were well behaved and polite. They just seemed like they had the ideal family. And I'm sure like most of you, I really did admire what was presented. But when the grits hit the fan, we found out that Martell was a devil in disguise. That it was not him that made him and Melanie a success. It was Melanie that made it a success. And that came from Melanie. Like a lot of wives, nobody wants their husbands to look bad. Nobody wants their marriage to look, you know, like it's in shambles. She held it together, made it seem like, you know, we have this successful business, we're a loving family, we have a good marriage, we have beautiful children. And we found out when Martell's sloppiness and disrespect for his marriage, when it came into full fruition, we found out the package that was presented, Martell was nothing like that. It was Mel making him look good. And this is the reason why a lot of these side chicks get fooled, because these married men have them thinking they are the ones that are the prize, and they're not. Their wives are the prize. Their wives are the go-getter. That whole time, Mel was the one that had the license. Mel was the one that had the degrees. Mel was the ones who had the businesses, who had the business mind. Martell had nothing. Nothing. He did not really contribute anything. And I'm sure whatever the little bit he did contribute was nothing Melanie could not do by herself. You have a lot of married men like Martell that know how to do just enough to get by, but they leave everything on their wives because they know their wives are smart, they know their wives are independent. So they fall back, get lazy, get fat, and instead of them taking that energy to also help build their wives, getting a license of their own, getting degrees of their own, getting a business of their own. No, they decide to go out here and start dick slanging. Instead of Martell putting his energy into getting his license and getting certified through the board, the state, or whatever, to become a real estate agent or investor or whatever. He took it upon himself to go and commit adultery with an airhead that had nothing his wife had, because a lot of that comes from he had too much time on his hands. If he was as ambitious as male, he wouldn't have had time to go out here raw dogging other females. And it just wasn't slow slaw. We found out later on down the line that he had been with multiple women. And this is why he's in the situation he's in. Same thing with Kelly Clarkson from American Idol, and former house husband who was also her manager, Brandon Blackstock. He went in for the kill. She had to give that man millions. Millions. In fact, out of all the husbands I mentioned, he was the one that won the largest settlement. She had to give that man millions. And some more thousands for attorney fees. And had to give him a couple of properties. He had got a lot out of that divorce. That was the biggest divorce settlement I ever saw a man ever win. Matter of fact, I'm going to look into that settlement really quick. So from what I found here, Kelly Clarkson had to pay over $1.3 million in divorce settlement. She also reportedly had to pay an additional $45,000 a month in child support for their 2 children. Also had to, as part of the agreement, children will fly private until they were fully vaccinated at the time. So she also agreed to make a $50,000 reimbursement on payment to her ex for the children's private air travel. He had a hell of a lawyer, I'll tell you that. Clarkson also had to pay her ex-husband $115,000 a month in spousal support until January 31st of 2024. What else? They had he would also give possession of the farm, cattle, livestock, stock, dogs, and horses, Ford F-250, Ford 350, so a lot of assets. Also keeping a golf stimulator and a couple of very pricey Patek Philippe watches. Basically, he lived the good life. She had to pay him good, honey. She had to pay him real good. So unfortunately, this is what happens when you pick up men that aren't on your level, and you marry men that are not that ambitious, that weren't motivated to be no more than what they could have been because they was solely relying on you. This is what ends up happening. When y'all divorce, things go left, they get relentless, and they try to go for the juggler. That is what Martell has been trying to do, and has been an epic fail. So the issue with men is that with these type of low value men, because I don't like generalizing everybody, they become accustomed to living fat off a woman's money. And what tends to happen when it comes to a divorce settlement, they begin to spiral out of control when they no longer have access to those funds to keep supplementing their lifestyle. So they become very vindictive and malicious. Now, keep in mind, most house husbands are usually very controlling. You have a lot of these men like Kevin Hunter and Kevin 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼, you know, who had to go for the juggler because they knew that losing those marriages would mean no longer having access to that lifestyle. But keep in mind, these men were always controlling. They didn't just become controlling during the divorce. So this is the reason why they fight so hard, keep going back and forth to court, because they're just determined they're going to conquer you because they're used to always being able to conquer you. That is what's going on with Kevin Hunter. That is what's going on with Martell. These men didn't start wanting control all of a sudden because of trying to get child support or trying to get alimony. These men have always had control, and we've witnessed this. We've witnessed Wendy Williams be humble as a lamb to Kevin Hunter. That's why he is going at her like a loose cannon. He's so relentless because you got to remember, Kevin Hunter had a lot of control over Wendy Williams for years, to the point he had so much control he bought another house for his side chick on the same street as his ex-wife now, but current wife at the time. That's how much control he had. To the point he had Wendy Williams agreeing that, okay, if you're going to deal with this woman, fine, just don't get her pregnant. He didn't even respect her enough not to even do that. You was already, she accepted you paying for the side chick house. She accepted you wanting to deal with this woman. Only thing she said, which I don't agree with that, but that was her husband and that's what Wendy was willing. She was willing to deal with it. He couldn't even respect that. No different than Kevin 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼. Kevin 𝓜𝓜𝓬𝓬𝓱𝓪'𝓼 been very controlling over Brittany. And that's the reason when she spiraled out of control, he took full advantage. Because he's used to being in Brittany's money. And he was going to use that opportunity to get back on her money, because he knew if he didn't get back into the life of Britney Spears' money, he was going to have to go back to being a trailer park. The typical trailer park white boy. You know what I mean? Driving a regular Ford F-250 just like the rest of the other white boys in the country. He was not going there because she introduced him to a lifestyle he has become accustomed to. He was not going to go back to being a basic Brad. No more than Martell. That is why Martell has been so malicious, so vindictive. He is doing everything possible to try to get under Mel's skin, having little helmet around Melanie's children, knowing how Melanie feels about how that little boy got here, knowing how she feels about the children they had together. That is his way of undercoverly trying to sabotage Melanie. He intentionally has little helmet around her children, knowing Melanie is not feeling that. He's not feeling it either, but to prove a point and just to vindictively attack her and hurt her, he's willing to pull all strings at this point until he can shatter her, because that's what he's used to doing. Remember the first season, we've seen Martell get underneath Melanie's skin by saying, you don't satisfy me, you don't please me. Anything to get a rise out of her, because he's so used to making her cry, so used to making her feel awful. And the fact that he sees this is not the same Mel that he can make cry, that he can make feel bad, is making him more evil. Because again, most house husbands are used to being very controlling. So once the courts step into play and say, no, you will no longer have the control you used to have. You will no longer get the alimony. You will not be eligible to get child support for the children y'all had together. They become like undisciplined little boys that are throwing tantrums and are willing to do anything necessary to try to make the situation more chaotic, because they're angry that they have lost control. And one thing about a narcissistic man, when they lose control, they get out of control. Many women usually admit to this when a divorce steps in place. House husbands usually run the business, career moves, and the money. Most women become transparent, when the divorce has been finalized. Mary J. Blige did eventually end up coming forward and say, that was my problem. I made Kendall my knight in shining armor. I was living in this fairy tale. I was believing that he really was saving me when all along he was really using me. He was really, taking advantage of me. I'm not really, it took 12 years for you to come to this conclusion. But also have to play devil's advocate, because I think in some cases too, women who become transparent with this is because only it took you being embarrassed to be transparent. It took the marriage reaching a breaking point for you to decide to become this transparent. Because if you could have hid that affair, if you could have act like it didn't happen, you wouldn't have been up here preaching and teaching the women about how you allowed yourself to be a fool for a man that was taking advantage of you. Because she even admitted in another interview, had 𝓜𝓸𝓬𝓱𝓪'Isaacs not been so open with the affair, they could have got past it. She too, like Wendy Williams, was willing to. But this is how a lot of these jokers do. Even when you're willing to take the disrespect, even when you're willing to deal with the humiliation, they still got to up the ante. So Mary J. Blige could do the black woman's empowerment speech, but truth be told, she was willing to deal with him. No different than Lala Anthony with Carmelo Anthony. You know, when it first came out that Carmelo Anthony had a child, and it was still like not confirmed on a solid note, and she was questioned about it on the Breakfast Club or whatever. Of course, she denied it. She act like that could never happen to her. That's not that I know of. I've never heard about it. She played like the dumb role, like she was really oblivious to it. And maybe because she knew and was too embarrassed, or maybe she really didn't know. But the vibe that I had got was, it can't be. It wouldn't be. That's just my perspective. And when it came into full fruition, and the picture started surfacing and floating of the little girl, it was no longer something she could deny or be oblivious to. Ironically, what I peeped that a lot of other people didn't peep, even though Lala is divorced to him now, but do y'all not know she did not divorce him for almost like a year or two, even after she found out about that little girl. So that wasn't the final straw that made her divorce Carmelo Anthony. She was willing to still try to save their family, because you got to realize women in the industry, it's not as love is one reason they want to keep their family together. All women to a degree want to keep their families together, but the biggest thing for industry women is image. Nobody wants to look like an idiot, especially as a celebrity. When you have a brand, you have a career within the industry, like, you don't want any kind of stains near your family name or near anything that's affiliated with you, you know. And it's not because it could tarnish your brand, but in some cases it can, and it's just not a good look. So she was still willing. She stayed with him even after I think the little girl was like 4 or 5 years old. However, she did not leave right away. What broke the straw on the camel's back was when he got caught again out in a yacht. I don't know if it was Switzerland, one of those foreign countries. Paparazzi got a hold of him taking a picture with the woman in a G-string on some type of yacht, and it was a private yacht. That finished, that was close to finishing it off. That was her initial breaking point. But what put the nail in the coffin was when another woman from Europe or France, one of them other countries, came out and stated that she had twins from Carmelo Anthony. That's when she left. Lot of people don't know that, but if you look it up, there's a story circulating about Carmelo Anthony's twins. And what it was the lady who had the twins, I think one of the twins was sickly or having like medical issues, and she just couldn't take Carmelo just sending checks and not actually being there and being a father. So she ended up outing it. And that's what ended up happening. So Carmelo Anthony not only have a 14-year-old son with his wife, well, ex-wife, um, Lala Anthony, but he also has a daughter, from another with another woman by the name of Mia Angel. They have a little girl together. I think she's probably like 4 or 5 by now, and she looks every bit like him. So he couldn't deny that if he wanted to. Um, and he also has allegedly, got to say that to sound nice, um twins from another woman in London. Um so after that came out, rumor or not, and evidently it wasn't a rumor, that's when Lala said, okay, enough is enough. Matter of fact, that mistress stated that the two met in New York City in 2020. And she knew that he was married. Most of them do, but they don't give a damn. But maintain he acted single. The salaciousness of the love triangle got worse when Carmelo's baby mama found out she was pregnant in September. The 38-year-old woman initially planned to get a medically induced abortion in LA, but the New York native failed to accompany her to the procedure. So basically, Carmelo did not support her by going there with her. To complete the abortion, however. But nevertheless, I guess she changed her mind, and she ended up giving birth to twin boys. After that, the philandering baller attempted to convince the woman to unlink herself from her and her Sharon completely, but not before he made a plethora of empty promises. But she was smarter than that. She had babies in April, some 2 months before her June date. Her son has had surgery and remains in London hospital. Even though it appears that Carmelo Anthony wants nothing to do with his or her outside babies, the mistress feels the married man must be in the child's lives. He does provide money and place for her to live, but the side piece doesn't want to be a kept woman. So nevertheless, that really that added more insult to injury. So moving right along, most house husbands don't become controlling once a divorce, like I said earlier, or divorce settlement is involved. They were already very controlling beforehand. When women are married, they feel overly safe in sharing all of their success and their finances, not understanding that even in marriage you have to still protect yourself. You definitely have to protect yourself, even though you may feel that y'all are a team, because we've seen it play out too many times, especially when you are the predominant breadwinner, when you are the one that makes the majority of the money. Some of these men become more emotional than women when they can't have their way. You get all the feminine energy. Martell is definitely one. Martell has displayed a lot of feminine energy when he gets mad. He's gone so far as to becoming friends with Mel's rivals. He has paraded Lil Helmet, his side child, who he lost his marriage because of, by merging them with the children he had from his marriage, which he's definitely dead wrong, like two left shoes for even doing that. You created that. You and Slow Slaw need to deal with that on your own terms. He should not be putting Lil Helmet with the Eminem kids. But again, the wicked little evil boy in him, because he's upset that he cannot get any money, upset that Mel has moved on with him. That is his way, moved on without him. That is his way of throwing tantrums. That's his way of trying to continuously stab Mel in the back. And that's really the only weapon he can use, because not like he's making money, so he can't deprive her of money. He can't deprive her of anything because Mel already has everything. But he knows what's dear to Mel's heart is those children. So he intentionally lets little Helmet be in the company around the other kids. Not only that, 𝓜𝓸 also wants her son to be in the presence of those children as well, because that's her way of retaliating and getting that male, like, you're nanny nanny boo boo, you're not the only one who has children. I have a son, and my son is going to be acknowledged, and he's going to be present just like y'all children that y'all had together during our marriage. But it does not matter. Little Helmet will never be an Eminem. And when everybody sees Little Helmet, they know how he got here, and they know why he's here. So even though Martell and 𝓜𝓸 may look at it as a badge of honor and as leverage to try to to try to taunt Mel, in actuality, they're the ones getting taunted, and it's going to be that same Little Helmet. He's going to be the one that's going to taunt them. Martell can't even let little boy be to himself for 2 seconds because he has so many disciplinary problems, which is not disciplinary problems. It's definitely a spirit in that little boy because of how he was conceived here. But I'm going to save that for my next recipe. We're going to be going more into talking about that. We're going to be talking about children that have been conceived through troubled means, how they end up becoming troubled individuals. And it's not a behavioral issue. You see these young people, these children that are acting out. They're not acting the same from children that would actually conceived in a marriage. They seem more behavioral. They seem like they have more issues. And it's not a behavioral thing. It's a spiritual thing. A lot of how a child was conceived, how a child was breeded here, has a lot to do with the type of spirit that child carries. And people try to dress it up and call it behavioral, when it's not behavioral, it's spiritual. But we're going to save that for the next recipe. Okay, so we're going to pump the brakes on that. But again, I thought it was imperative that I talked about this. When the house husband becomes financially codependent on his wife, he will become very vindictive. He will spiral out of control. He will become off the chain because now he knows he no longer has that control. He can no longer use the same tools in which he was able to use when he was able to have his way. He can no longer curse you out now. He can no longer threaten you now. He can no longer throw shade and throw insults at you and things, and do those vindictive, malicious things to taunt you. We've seen Martell do a lot to Melanie to try to get under her skin. We've witnessed him disrespect her by telling her to shut up, by telling her to be quiet. We've witnessed him compare his wife to the side chick by saying that you don't sexually please me enough. We witnessed him allowing 𝓜𝓸 to disrespect his wife, no longer his wife, mother of his children. We've seen Martell intentionally allow things to happen to Mel, and he leaves her there for dead because he's so angry with her. A part of him wants her to suffer. That's why he doesn't come to her defense. When Letitia and Marcel and everybody's coming at her and stuff, he snickles and giggles. He thinks it's funny because he loves when other people come in and throw punches, because he knows his punches alone aren't strong enough. Everything he has done hasn't been enough to break Mel down. So he has to campaign with other haters of Mel in order to feel like he has gained some type of power. Not only that, Martell has had nothing but bad luck, and I'm going to be doing content on that too. Um, ever since committing adultery on his wife, everything that he has touched has become an epic fail. He has withering hands. Seems like doesn't matter what he tries, what he does, nothing is great. Nothing great comes out of it. No different than with Slow. She has not been able to get ahead on anything. Everything she's tried to dress like male, be like male, start business like male, but you're not male. You don't have her independence. You don't have her determination. The only time you determine is when it's coming to getting Martell's dick. You're nowhere on her level educationally, spiritually. She's just not there or whatever. So, nevertheless, Mel has definitely had her share of people coming for her because she has not handled things the way we feel she should handle him. We feel a lot of people feeling like she's allowing Martell to get away with too much. Why she just don't take him to court, take him to the cleaners. He ain't paying no child support. Why won't she just really give him that drill, give him that work? And the thing is this, when you know God and you have a relationship with God and you know how powerful God is, it's not going to make sense to other people around you why you don't handle things in a worldly manner. When you know God, you know how to fight things with the Spirit. And when you are in the Spirit, you already know that God is on your side and you don't have to resort to the ways of the world by getting back and retaliating. Women who have done it have ended up in prison. Women who have done it have ended up losing their lives. We have to be careful with our emotions because you have men like that. They will try to drive you to a point of no return in which you lose it, you snap, and next thing you notice, you're doing life at some correctional institution. All because this man you have given him so much power to torment you that you just couldn't take it no more and you had to take matters in your own hands. So, nevertheless, definitely going to be praying for Mary, praying for women who get themselves in this type of situation. Please be mindful of the house husband who's coming into your life, coming into the season of your success when he didn't play a part in it. He was not there. He didn't contribute before you became this pop star, before you became this successful woman, whatever, independent woman. You don't have to be on the well-known scale like Melanie and Mariah Carey, whatever. Just the fact that you were successful and you had your own SHIT, Sugar Honey Iced Tea, before he came along. Do not let the house husband become so controlling to the point that when you finally decide to start taking that control back, whether if it's through the courts, whether if it's spiritually, emotionally, that now you have a man-child on your hands that is out to ruin you because he's self-destructing because he no longer has the control that he has always had. So anyway, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. I appreciate everybody being so patient with me throughout this content. It's been a while. Thank y'all so much. I'm going to keep it coming. I got more recipes in store. I'm just getting the cooking. I got so much more cooking I have to do. So keep in mind, I got plenty more recipes coming y'all way. So anyway, y'all, please leave y'all comment below. Let me know what y'all think about this, about the house husbands. What makes them spiral out of control when they know they no longer will be able to benefit off of the wife that has been their financial backbone for years. What do you think provokes them to do this? What other celebrities do you know of that I did not mention? Women who did get themselves in this type of situation. So please, before you leave right now, hit that like button before you go. Hit the like button, ladies. If you didn't subscribe, please make sure you subscribe before you exit. It is your girl, your diva in knowledge, Lady Mocha, representing Mocha's Ladies Lounge, where I'm always giving you recipes from a spiritual and psychological viewpoint. Y'all be blessed and take care until next time. And don't forget, I will be uploading my next series. If y'all didn't see it in the community tab, also known as, let me see, damn, I forgot the name of the new one that I'm going to be doing. So, the spiritual warfare of the side child. Stop blaming behavior. It's the cursed spirit. So that's going to be my next upload. So until then, y'all take care and please be blessed. And I'll holler at y'all next time. Bye.